So we're going to start here at our dashboard. There's a lot to this site. What we're going to be talking about mostly is the improvement and enhancements versus your site that you're using right now. The benefit to this site that we have, this new version, one of the big pieces for you and your users is that a lot of the core pieces are still intact. There's going to be a lot of familiarity for users as they kind of go back and forth. But at the same time, there's a lot of enhancements that make that experience a lot better. For you guys as users and agencies, there's just a lot of small enhancements and changes that makes the user interface easier to see, easier to read, easier to navigate. But for you guys at the the leadership level, the biggest enhancements that you'll see is the ability to customize and be more flexible within the site. Part of that is due to, simply put, just, it's 2025 and things are better, in how we design websites and systems and things like that. And so the version you guys have is from, you said it's 2015, right? So, 10 years ago, people were coding differently and building sites differently. And so simply put, just how we have everything built from the ground up is just a lot cleaner and better. And what that really means for you guys is that it's a lot easier to be flexible, and the site is not as locked in and gridlocked. So we're just going to start kind of from the beginning. What you really land on here, the dashboard. We're going to move through the site. I'll make sure to touch on things that people who aren't familiar with the BlackCat site can kind of get caught up, but I'll also make sure we address more, custom questions for those who are comfortable in the site might have. I know we've already talked about some specific scenarios here. So when you land on the dashboard, you'll see that we have, similar to what you guys have right now, kind of like a welcome message and some, we call them widgets. Essentially, these are tools, quick access points between all the modules. And so you'll notice the first thing is that the screen, obviously it looks better. It's more enhanced, kind of more updated version. It's a better use of the actual window and space. You can get a lot more on the screen, but also it's not as clunky or as, compact. So you can fit a lot of things on here as you visually. I'll scroll down here. You'll see some of the widgets that we have in place. We have, of course, like a welcome message you can customize. The nice thing about this is you can set this on timers. And so if you want to have specific welcome messages, being scheduled out, essentially, you can have them pop up during different times so that you can schedule out your messages, not have to every day go in and change it as needed. We have other widgets such as like the asset search. So you can quickly search for any vehicle and access it by this asset search feature. And as we scroll down, you'll see there's just various widgets and tools for parts of the sites. For instance, favorited projects. So if you want to, every user themselves can have specific projects that they favorite, that will pop up here. So as you're going through applications and things like that, especially for your agency users, is a quick way for them to access those. We also have, a widget for invoicing. This is really useful for your guys' team. So you have a quick access to see invoices that are coming up, that are pending or submitted and be addressed, as well as contracts here on the side. You'll see these could be contracts that are coming up to be expired soon. We also have custom widgets that can be built for things like DocuSign. So if we use any DocuSign or e-signature features within the site, you can have these documents come through here, whether they're contracts or invoices or applications, as well as inventories. So we'll see down here, this is a great way to see vehicles as they move through the site, whether they're being disposed or transferred. You can kind of select and hop between the two lists there, and that's either vehicles, equipment, and also facilities. So this is a great tool for you guys and your team as you're approving and reviewing submissions for disposals and transfers. You can see this quickly. There's other numerous module widgets. Essentially, if there's a module within the site, there's a widget that will match it. So for instance, oversight, procurement, things like that. There's also additional tools here that you can quickly jump into.
Scott, sorry, can I ask a question right now?
Yes.
So one of the big initial challenges with the clunkiness is the tab system, where we have to go into different tabs to find a little piece of information here, but then you got to go to another tab to find more. Is the widget your attempt to eliminate having to jump through all those tabs to find information by having it on one?
Absolutely, yeah. Great question. So every module, you can think of them almost as like a tab. Modules up here as a tab, like oversight and things like that. They are going to have their own widget on the dashboard. So you absolutely can just dive into those directly from here. Even this asset search, for instance, I don't know, you type in the VIN number, I'm going to guess a random VIN number. I don't know the vehicles in our test site here, so I don't know if one's going to pop up, obviously. But you can search your vehicles here quickly. They'll pull them up fast. I'm just going to guess at random numbers and see if I can pull one up here. But of course, I don't know what even
Yeah.
the side, but you get the idea. You could type
Right.
it in here, it would pull it up. Yeah, I'm going to try and guess it. But you get the point. You can type it in here, quickly jump to that vehicle. So this tool absolutely is a way to navigate that. And actually, that's a great leading question because we're going to go to our organization management tab next, because what we're going to do here is kind of answer that problem that you just mentioned. So when we go into our organization tab, you'll see here we have our filtering table. You'll notice that these filtering tables at the top, these search options are in a lot of our pages. They're pretty dynamic. You'll see any of these fields here you can search for your organizations, and so you can get a pretty complex filter going. As I scroll down below, here's a list of all of our organizations in this convenient table here. These tables can be run and pulled directly out to as an Excel report if you want, or you can go to a reports tab to run more, customizable reports. But the nice thing, to answer your question, is you can load multiple organizations at once and jump between them quickly. So if I wanted to, for most of your agency users, they would have just a single organization. But for you and maybe some of the organization users that are touching more organizations, you can load multiple by selecting them individually or selecting them all at once, and then you select load selected. Now, what I just did is, you saw me, I selected all the organizations and loaded them. So on the top right hand, you'll see this drop down. This displays all the organizations I loaded. So I did all the organizations here. You could do just 2 or 3 if you wanted. And at any point, if I was in their general documents or their vehicles, or looking at any of their items, I could swap between them immediately by selecting them within here, and it would take me to that location for their organization. So if I was in their vehicles and I wanted to hop to a different organization, it would keep me within the vehicle page for that organization. That way you're not going up and down, through the various tabs as you requested.
Can that organization list be linked to a login? So say when I log in, it just shows me the 7 urbans, or do you, each time you log in, need to select these are the 7 every time you log in?
So it will show a list of organizations that you are assigned to. So if you only want to see those, then you can just assign yourself to those.
And you just need to do that once, so then it would stick with you.
That's correct. Yes. When you land on the organization tab, you'll notice this is pretty normal as we navigate the site. On the left-hand side will be tabs specific to wherever you're at in the site. So right now we're looking at organizations. So on the left-hand side, you'll see I can look at general information, financial information. I can open up our general documents folder here, service information, which is going to be all of our modes and route specific, certification / important documents, and then we have our inventory items here on the left-hand side. So, and the first tab we land is our general information. This is going to be exactly that. It's going to have just a list of all the generic information, whether it's contact information, location information. You have the ability for them to put in their logo here on the top right here, as well as more in-depth geographical information as well. These fields can all be customized and changed. If you want to add anything or change anything, you can. They can get pretty in-depth. There's actually a lot of fields available. We tend to end up limiting them because it's more than what people really need. And so there's always enough for more. And at any point, you can, of course, always edit and update this information. We got a question.
Go ahead, Maddie.
Can you reverse that? So you selected all those organizations on the right-hand side from the drop-down. What if I just wanted to see the financial information from the same selected group in one spot? So can you reverse the?
Yes, so if I go to financial information, I'm not sure if I'm answering your question here, but if I click on this, at any point I can go to, let's say, Black Hill Works. And it'll keep,
yeah, I meant could you show Black Hills and Aberdeen at the same time in their financial information?
Gotcha. No, it's going to be one at a time.
Okay, so it's okay. That's fine. Thanks.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We can create reports that will output it.
Yes, you can create reports that pull all of that data out for multiple organizations at once if you'd like.
When we get to that, I assume the reporting piece is better to this version.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay, but I'll let you do either.
Sure. My spiel.
Before we get there.
Next, we're just going to look at the financial information. Similar to general information, it's exactly as it's titled. So you're going to have, their DUNS number, the UEI information. There's different vendor items. This is usually an area that we customize per state. They might have various codes and items that they want to collect related to the financial status of that agency. So we can always, include those in here, but essentially this is a place to collect that generic, kind of financial information at a top-down view. You also can add vendors specific to the agency here. These tie into the actual invoice process. So you can create vendors here that you then tag at the invoice level. Next up, we have general documents. You guys are familiar with this as resources, but it's just a general document structure for the organizations. The nice thing about this is this is just a document hierarchy that they can create and manage themselves. You also at your level can create folders that then populate at this organization level as well for them. So if you have maybe like a Title VI plan type structure you want, or certain specific documents you want to create, you do that at the admin level, and then it populates within this tab here. They cannot delete or manipulate those folders, but they can add and remove documents.
Is there like an umbrella one for all this?
There is.
Okay.
Yep. And that's called global documents. And we'll kind of touch base on that, but essentially it's the same concept. You can create that at the global level. Yep. Next up, we have our service information. This is going to be similar to what you guys already have in your sites. It's going to look familiar for those who are within the site, but you add your modes in here. So demand response, whatever type of other modes you want to add in here, you can then select at the top level here. And then as you navigate down here, every mode has the ability to collect the service hours. So I know your guys' service information tab, you guys use that quite a bit for your routes and route specific data. It's going to be very similar to that, where we can then add the actual route hours and then as well the locations that they're being served. This is a really important tool for the NTD module. And I know, Austin, you had talked about, or we had talked about you maybe helping with the NTD portion. We'll talk a little bit more in depth later on. But the module is tied very directly into the site. So as the users put in their vehicle data, as they put in their service information data and their modes, it's all pulling into that module so that most of those blanks are filled. So a lot of the data is captured once and you don't have to recreate it.
So with NTD, we've moved into the era of, and this Elliot can kind of help out with the GTFS data we've been reporting. Is there a way to, if an agency, we have this data, to put these data links or information in there, or is that somewhere else would be?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure I understand your question.
The new mapping.
Yeah.
Coming, should have that in there.
The
GTFS?
Yeah, I was just.
Oh,
I know.
report. No. You're right. That's
Yes.
yes. So that's a specific reporting component. Yes,
Yes.
it has that in there. Sorry, I
Okay.
wasn't connected. Yes,
And that's,
we have every report that they require. Has like 10 or something like that. Or we have every single one
yeah.
matches exactly that.
And then just with this being the service information, I didn't know if
Yes.
there might be a spot in
It
here.
pulls in there. Yes, it does.
Okay.
Yes.
So it would populate this from the GTFS file.
We would be able to put those links in. I think what Elliot has established with the agencies out there with his MOS data.
Right, but then does it?
Am I talking right, Elliot?
translate?
So we have a cloud-based server that holds all of the GTFS data for all the agencies. And so for the reporting purposes, we have to point to those files so FTA can access them. So I'm not sure if maybe you were thinking we would have some place we could put that address information in here, so it'd be easy to get to and we could just pull it, because the files might change, but the address will stay the same.
Yeah.
One additional thought that Caroline's kind of made me think of, I think you mentioned, Caleb, that it already has the spot for the URL in there for the GTFS
That's
feed.
correct.
Most of the time, that's a dynamic link where, especially on the urban side, I'm talking, if they update it, it's at that same link. But to Caroline's point, is there a way that some of the basic route level information, like the route name, et cetera, and the span, that all pulls fundamentally from GTFS? Is there a way that could be automatically populated, especially for some of the larger urban systems that have dozens of routes, rather than say quarterly they do a service update, rather than having to go through and change all of that? It would just automatically update.
So the data that you're thinking about would be in the GTFS files. So the timetable, so the beginning of service, end of service, which days they're serving, and the names of the routes. That
Yeah,
would
that's
all
all
be.
Yeah, we're not worried about the GTFS. It's sort
I'm
of
just curious
how
if
it goes in the
BlackCat.
But I thought you were asking, like, could you use that to pull into BlackCat to basically create
Yeah,
the different routes? Are you saying that so you don't have to basically recreate it a second time in BlackCat?
right, because it's for sure all there in GTFS and it's
Right.
manually for sure all there in BlackCat. And I'm wondering if that can be linked where BlackCat can pull from the URL and say, you know, Route 1, the first trip in GTFS says 8 a.m., the last one says 10 p.m. And then it puts that in automatically into the spam boxes. And maybe not, just curious.
I think that would be something we could ask about and see. I mean, we've done APIs like that for various different things.
Yeah, conceptually, we should be able to do it. Technically, I want to take a look at it, but we should talk about it. It's a nice value add. You need to want two different data elements, you know, differ in two different places. So certainly, I'll make a note. We can talk about it.
Yeah, we've done all sorts of different things with APIs, so.
Done a lot with us on the APIs.
Well, if it's dynamic feed, and we're collecting the data, or can get the data into the system, we should be able to do it. We'll just have to take
Yeah,
a look
that
at
makes
it.
sense.
But I'd be very positive on that.
That would also kind of kill two birds with one stone, because especially for the rurals, if we could do that, then that would get them to be a little more timely in working with our vendor to update their GTFS files. Because we need them to do that. If they could do it in one place and then it takes care of BlackCat as well, that would be great.
Yeah.
Would there be some, just thinking about the RFF process with the payments, I know you're talking right, you know, rides and that, but when we're purchasing stuff, you know, Gary documents, is there anything that is gonna be automated on that side of it? Like goes in recording or anything or not? You know what I'm saying? Like I manually email, you know, this was our process that we started because it was all manual, then the automated process with
Yeah,
emailing as we make payments for those dollars, but just the thought there too. I'm just trying to think of ways to automate, because it's like this morning hour and a half on finding not only emailing Gary, but you know, through BlackCat, but also combining documents and that. It's like a lot of work. I mean,
well, and I think Charlie, down the road, this Power BI process that we're working with internally in the office as far as for NTD data, that information, your payments would be being pulled through there. But also, we do have the NTD module in BlackCat that we can look at to make sure that, is it pulling the accurate payments? If we run an NTD report based on the agency, things like that. So I mean, there's ways that the way we do it now, it could get easier in the future.
there was an improvement at the time because we were
Yes.
pushing paper. Now we're,
I know it used to be
But now
paper
Now you're
copies.
pushing emails.
now we're pushing emails. BlackCat, but yeah.
Okay.
All right.
All right. We'll just, any other questions? Are we good to move on? Okay. So next up, we have a module that we call important documents. You guys are, you know, familiar with this, but there's some enhancements here. We have, for those who aren't familiar with it, this important documents essentially is similar to general documents, but what this is a little bit more in depth, where you can create what you would call categories and essentially think of them as folders that then populate at the organization level, but these have a lot more functionality tied to them. So depending on an important document, let's just use like a Title VI plan, for instance. At your level and the admin level, you would create this folder that then populates on all the organizations, and these folders then have permissions tied to them. So if there's data that's maybe private and only certain users need to be able to see, you can then mark this private. So if there's like budgetary data or things like that, you can say, hey, every year we need to report on your budget. Here's your folder. It populates in this module. It expires on this date. If that expiration date is met, the system is notifying them, letting them know. You're able to archive these files, very similar to the module you guys have now, but just a little enhanced at that level. So, you know, a good example would be if you want to provide copies of insurance or lease information every year or every 6 months. You create these important document structures, and the system would then be notifying them, hey, your insurance, copy of your insurance is about to expire. Please make sure it's, put in the folder here. And if not, then you're also notified. You can run reports also to see which organizations their documents are about to expire, what ones are missing. And then again, you have that privacy feature too, so you can then have them hidden depending on the permissions. So if you want to have specific documents for specific users to be able to have access to. The nice thing about this is it also lives at the vehicle level. So you can create documents on every vehicle. So great example, again, would be a copy of insurance. If you want, every vehicle to have a copy of insurance, you can then create it and it populates on every vehicle. They're then notified if their vehicle, their Ford is about to expire, et cetera. And they then can make sure that those documents are updated.
If I may, Scott, editorialize here for a second.
Yeah.
So important documents always had been an area where we kept important documents, but a lot of what he's talking about in these categories like plans and policies, all of those have resided historically in the general documents.
Mhm.
And the general documents, we can create folders and put things together, but our folder system is kind of like our N drive on how we manage that. So you can imagine what it looks like. So it's really hard to find stuff in the general document. So adding this piece gets that information more organized. So that's
Yeah.
plus.
And you could also archive the documents too. So let's say if there's an annual or, recurring document, you can then archive, which hides them, so it's not as messy. And then at any point, you can then search your archived versions, but yeah.
This solve an issue of, and maybe this issue has already been solved, but having to upload these certification documents to each individual application
That's
over and over and over again.
Yeah, so
Now it's just one time and we can kind of like crosswalk it to this basically.
that's correct. You can provide essentially think of it as like a template at the admin side. So you'd say, I want this folder to populate on every organization. Here's our version of it. And then every organization, if you open it up, it's then showing for them.
Yeah, in fact, I can tell you the reason that this section was created was specifically for
To
that.
resolve
That was the first
Yeah.
iteration of that. And what's really important here, Title VI plans is something we see a lot that, they're specific documents that need to be tracked, have expiration dates. You need to be archived so you can see the old one versus the new one. Certifications falls into that. We see a lot of security plans and that type of thing in this section. So what it's really meant to do is identify those documents that really need attention. You need to know where they are. You create specific sections and specific slots for those documents. It's real critical for those documents. Everybody can access that. Then everything else can be folded off the resources section.
I have a question on that. So whenever the documents expire, is it archived automatically in BlackCat or is it like we have to?
When they replace them, they can then choose to archive them or not.
Okay,
So if there's an expiration date on it, it doesn't archive it until somebody takes action, but the system is notifying you that it is expired.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
you can run an expired documents report, for
Okay.
example.
and the system is notifying the agency or the TPMs?
The agencies, and then you're able to run the report to see. That
Okay.
yeah. And we could always add a notification if you want to. I think last time we'd suggested, one state was like, please, I don't want to get an email every time someone's insurance is expired. But if you would like that though, I can easily add it.
Okay, is that customizable? Like who to send the notification to?
Yeah, we would
Okay.
create the notification, kind of create the rules, who receives it and what does it say.
Okay.
It's a good tool.
Where's the Title VI? You said you were talking about Title VI.
In this example, I'm looking at kind of our test site. There's actually not one here. So you create these categories yourself. So you can
Okay,
say, we
'cause
want Title VI.
We currently have Title VI as one of our.
Right.
Yeah, Chuck,
Yeah,
in our version right now of, and it's just important documents.
Yep.
That folder, if you go down, we have, Title VI.
no, it's its own tab.
Lonnie saying it's on the
Yeah,
side.
and-
Oh, yeah,
Current
but,
system.
but we did in important documents, Chuck did create a folder for it, in there where they're uploading it to.
This kind of replaces that. It's the same functionality essentially.
Yeah, that's more hard coded. Here, you would actually go in, you could decide what categories you want. You want Title VI, you want, safety, you want
Right.
whatever it is. So you all have the ability to create the categories and create the documents. that you'd like.
So here's a good example. I expanded. We were looking at policies. This was its own category. And then within the category, We've created, 10 to 15 documents that need to be maintained. Some of these you can just see there's no expiration date, so valid until revised. Or you see one down here, of course, you have like a 3-year validity length. Is confidential. That means, is this private? Is this locked for certain users? Then you can upload your version, and then you see this document template. It's empty, but if you provided a template of like a policy for them or something, it would be available here, and they could download it. Any of these you then can open up, and then you can see here's the actual document. So I could download their version of their miscellaneous. The expiration date, of course, doesn't exist because they didn't require it here. You can see who uploaded it, when it was last uploaded, and you can archive it at any point.
While you're on that, this is a good segue here or comment I want to make, because you got all those other states up there. So when it comes time for us to determine this category, we're all sitting down as a group. You can bring to us examples of what some other states are doing so we can see, get some ideas. I'd love to have ideas from other states. Oh, no, no.
No likes that one.
Yeah, no.
Yeah,
But that is something.
No comments.
absolutely.
All right.
It's on Title VI.
So I'll move along down here on the left-hand side. So we're still in organizations. This is really one of the more in-depth tabs. Of course, there's a lot of information at the organization level. Next, we have our inventory. So I'm going to select our vehicle here. We have the ability to look at the 3 types of vehicle or inventory. We have vehicles, equipment, facility. We've talked at one point about adding real property as well as a 4th. So that's in discussion. But right now we have these 3 categories. When you open up one of your vehicle or one of your inventory type vehicles, again, you can switch between any of your organizations at any point that we talked about. We're going to have at the very top our filtering tables. You can filter by all sorts of different types. And then down here, we're going to have our actual vehicle listing. So this table right here is just going to be kind of a quick snapshot of each vehicle at a more higher level. We can export this table to Excel. On the left-hand side, we'll look at the table before we dive into one of our vehicles. First category or column, we have our VIN number. We have agency ID, which of course, any of these fields can be renamed to whatever you would like them to be. But as you see, as we scroll through, just a lot of like the basic information, such as the year, license plate, vehicle type, useful life. So the useful life rules are set by us in the system. So, depending on the category and the type of vehicle, you tell us, is it 100,000 miles, is it 200,000 miles, is it 5 years, is it both years and miles that you want to judge it by? The system is then going to be flagging those vehicles when those useful life rules have been met, those rules that are dictated by you. A lot of this information we're looking at also ties directly into the NTD module, of course. So any of the data that's input here that would be belonging on that NTD reporting is going to then be pulled directly out. So you don't have to have people duplicating data. As long as they come in here and update their vehicles and the information in here, it's going to pull into that module and spit it out for you in a clean report. So as I scroll over here, you'll just see, a lot of kind of quick access points such as mileage, condition, status, things like that. I'm going to scroll back over here. We're going to open up one of our vehicles by selecting the VIN number. Now, when we look at the vehicle at the individual level, you'll see that there is a lot of information. Every item you see here, whether it's a radio button or a drop-down pick list or just an open text field, these can be completely customizable. So they're broken up into sections. You have your asset information here first. We have vehicle identification, such as the VIN number, license plate, the category, the type. And as I scroll down here, you'll see there's just a plethora of data points that we can gather. What's really nice about this system, like I mentioned earlier, there's a lot more customization, and just because it's 10 or so years later, we just have a lot more ability within the build. So any of these items, you could email me and you could say, hey, Caleb, this needs to be phrased differently, or this spelled differently, or I want this field to be required. And we have the ability to do that really more quickly. We don't have to have the programmers come in and hard code specific fields. I can go in there for you and say, okay, let's make this one required. Let's change the phrasing here, things like that. You can also say, hey, this is too much. Let's remove some of these fields and hide them. We can easily hide some of these fields. So we have our lease information, condition, all of these pick lists as well. Is another thing, is that these can be quickly changed and customizable. A lot of what we have control over at the project manager level are items like this. And so if you want to say, hey, the condition rating, we don't want to say poor, marginal, adequate. We want to say different things. A lot of these items I'm actually able to, on your behalf, to go in and change those. We don't have to have programmers coming in and manually hard code these things for you. So it's a much quicker turnaround for those items as well. Then we have our useful life rules. So for instance, you can actually see the rules here. So for this specific vehicle and category and type, it's 7 years or 200,000 miles. So it hasn't, useful life has not been met. So we don't have that little checkbox here. But as it is, you'll then be notified and you'll see a little marker in there saying, hey, your vehicle's met useful life. Then down here, we have our funding information. This is going to just list all the grants and is it DOT funded, any other specific contract information, as well as the amount and if it's broken up federal, state, local amounts. We're actually in the process of enhancing this section specifically. So this will become a little bit more in-depth and more user-friendly. You can actually start tying some of your contracts at a more in-depth level and kind of see those dollars and how they're being spent at a more granular level if you would like. And then we have our history log as well as additional comments here at the bottom. I'm gonna hop out really quick.
Just a quick question. How different is this, Gary, from?
The flexibility into customizing it is big time with this compared to what we're under. I mean, Ben and I have been talking because of like fuel is a question that some of the agencies are questioning based off the options we have. Well, our drop down boxes in the current program that we're under is pretty well generically set for everybody.
Mhm.
And that stuff, but to be able to customize
Mhm.
drop down boxes, fuel types, and then the vehicles. I mean, there's only like two or three of the vehicles in the drop down options that we actually, through our vendors we use, that Harini sets up. The rest of them, I have to click not available or not listed and then type in the type of vehicle, manually enter. So to customize all this would obviously be a lot better with our asset management and more accurate on the
A
inventories.
lot more information
Yeah,
that you could pull from.
Yeah.
exactly. And then all the grant, the contracts, things like that, we can set it for it and, which makes it nice.
Mhm.
And a lot of these fields are tied to, for reporting purposes, useful lives in there, useful life benchmarks and useful life criteria is calculated. A lot of them are synced with NTD. So,
Right.
it's real important that, we work with.
So like how with the vehicles and we go out and, Tracy writes our federal grants. We have our grant ID, it's MN dash something number. So when that gets pulled in under the contracts, would that like under the grant numbers, we just click and drop down, or would we have to manually get those added in through KISS?
You're talking about the funding section there?
Yeah.
Yeah, it populates automatically. So whatever's in the system, it can be pulled in.
So, yeah, so that would be,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah,
So as our grant numbers change with contracts and everything over the years, it's gonna update that constantly, which is huge,
Mhm.
keeping the, accurate there. Obviously, the contracts assigned to the agency are gonna be available there, so.
Would this fundamentally change any of the endpoints for the API, or we would just have to update it based on if the label name for a field change, we'd have to change that in the API pool?
We'd probably have to shift it on our end, so we'd have to do some customization to it to do that. Yeah. But the fact that it's built now would make it a lot easier.
Mhm.
Yeah.
APIs have just been amazing for
Oh,
us
great.
to give you guys an update at some point of what we're doing with it.
I think we had a question.
Yeah, Maddie's got a question.
Yeah, who can access this and put the information in?
Yeah, great question. So this system, another good example of the customization, is very permission driven. So I think in your guys' version right now, we call them user groups, and you put someone in a user group and then it applies a generic set of permissions, which works in some ways. But if you want to get really granular, sometimes you have to right now probably apply people to different user groups just to make it work. Right now, what we have is a permission-based system, which we'll look here in a minute. At the end, we'll look at admin and kind of see how you do that. But essentially, every ability, every action that you can take in a site is a checkbox that you can then customize. And then you can build what we call templates, which essentially are the same as user groups. And so you could say, all right, so for everyone who's a state leadership team, we're going to create this template. They get these permissions, essentially like everything, right? An agency user will create a template. You get these permission sets. But then at any point, you can go in and change each user at the user level as well. On our inventory page, I'll just touch base really quick before we move along. We have the ability to also quickly jump between transfers and disposals, and then we have our maintenance item over here. I won't go too in depth with the transfers and disposals. As you can probably surmise exactly how it operates, but the great thing about this is that when items are disposed or transferred, the items are not actually lost. So if a vehicle is transferred, all those data points, everything from that vehicle to history is then brought over to the new organization. We have a much more robust process of how this works. And so if you say you want to have one-step approval or two-step or three-step, we can really work with you on customizing exactly how the disposals go or transfers. And, does the agency who's receiving the vehicle need to approve them or not? Things like that. You can really kind of shape how those vehicles are disposed and transferred. And they're easily accessed through our tables here by looking at those.
Would this address, like, I think another issue I've heard about is like, okay, we dispose the vehicle, but we don't actually have the new one yet. So it's like in this limbo time frame. Is there, how do we like know where it's at in the process? Or do we not dispose until we get the new vehicle?
It varies with the agencies, depending on that vehicle. Some agencies might dispose of it once they've ordered their new vehicle because maybe the condition of that vehicle is so bad. But yeah, but in most situations, most of them have them till they're delivered. And then once they get them delivered and get them into service, then the disposal
Then
process.
they do this.
Yes.
So a follow-up question to that. So we dispose of, does that then take that vehicle off that listing? Once it's disposed of, so does it do it automatically?
That's correct. So you still have access to it. There's a separate list of disposed right here. So see if I'm looking at disposals. So in this example here, we have one vehicle that's disposed.
Archives.
This vehicle, it archives it, that's right. So
Nice.
this vehicle is not going to show on your active list, but you still can look at it at any point.
Sure, but it eliminates from the active.
That's correct.
Inadvertently catch it and thinking it's still, like, it's gone off that active.
That's correct. Yeah. So it hides it. You could always, move it back if you need to undo it, but yes. And then I'm going to touch on our maintenance module. This is an additional module we have that's a great way to, of course, capture everything that's maintenance related. So on our table down here, we'll see every item is a different maintenance action that's been performed on this specific vehicle. You can look at the whole vehicle level, or you can search, of course, by the individual vehicles here. And the nice thing about this is these maintenance items can be a single item, such as, an oil change, or this maintenance could be a collection of items that was done. Maybe they rotate their tires, maybe they did their oil, maybe they fixed their brakes, etc. And the site, when you add these in here, you're able to customize and say, here's our oil change. Maybe it needs to be done every 3,000 miles. Then you'll see here on the right-hand side, there's red flags when those items are then, overdue and need to be addressed again. And they'll be notified saying, hey, your brakes are coming up, you missed your oil change, etc., things like that. And you can then collect everything that's been done on these, not just vehicles, but also facilities and things like that. And it's also connected to our invoicing process. So as you're creating invoices, you can then tag, say, we're reimbursing for this much. Here's all the maintenance items that we did, and tag those maintenance items to the invoice as well.
This would be nice for some of our smaller agencies. Per discussion, times that I've gone out, that the smaller ones are looking for some type of program to do, keep their maintenance, but they're just, they don't want to go out and get a big maintenance program. Well, this would be the answer. They'd have it internally in BlackCat right at their discretion to use.
So they could use that, but we don't want to be going down the path of approving every invoice for every system.
No,
Which some states do that, I get that. And so they go to a more finer detail than we do, but we have plenty of financial review already. Don't need to do that.
Yeah.
So just moving along, just kind of for the sake of time, we also have, of course, the exact same thing for equipment and facilities. You'll see it's very similar. We can set up your workflows to be different. If you want your vehicles disposals to look like a different process from your equipment, et cetera, you can then change those and how those all work, or they can all be the same, whatever whatever kind of works for you. But your ability to collect all of your inventory items. We have a new tool in here. I was going to open. We're in the middle of still building it, so I'm going to see if it's working right now in this test site here. This is called our inventory map. But what this is doing, there's two things that are really cool about this feature. One, it's connected to Google Maps. And so what the biggest, I think the biggest asset that this tool has brought to our site is that it does address validation. And so for your organizations, when you're creating organizations and putting them in there, you can't just make up an address. As you're typing it out, it's pulling from Google Maps. And so it forces them to then put the correct location, not at the organization level, but also at the facility level too. So as they're putting in their facilities, it's not going to let them make a mistake. It's going to require them to put in the correct address. And not only that, but we have the ability to then visualize those at the map level. So this is actually Google Maps that we're connected to right now. And every item you see here is an individual facility. So if we were to open these up, we can then go directly to that facility by opening up here, but then also can see kind of a quick picture of the type, the class, and the location of that. And we can then filter down here by selecting our organizations, as well as the various types and classes to then filter down and see on the actual map a visual layout of those organizations.
Can we see that for like, let's say we do 4 new facilities. So
Mhm.
can we like filter it down to those ones and show?
Yeah, you would just, you'd search by the organization. So I'm not sure. Okay, so like, for instance, we're looking at City of Aberdeen right now. We have just, looks like one facility here. So yeah, you could absolutely filter by those organizations as you see the facilities are kind of popping up.
Do you have any with multiple, like a large multi-county with multiple facilities?
Probably.
Right over
Let's-
there, yeah.
And just so you know, Noel, we digitized our facilities
Oh,
as of 2 weeks ago.
yeah.
So Austin
Okay.
went through everything he had in BlackCat and digitized it. And then what we don't have good data on is leased facilities. So I'm curious if there's like a subcategory for lease information in here.
It's kind of similar to
This, I
the,
think this would be a really useful module for us.
similar to what Alex kind of was building and working on earlier, wasn't it?
I have no idea.
Okay,
Would there be
I
an
don't know
op-
that any work has been done on leased facilities that I'm aware of.
yeah, all right.
It seems like we have some data, but it's very spotty.
would there be an option to export the spatial file, either to shapefile or KML or KMZ or something?
Yeah, right now it exports to Excel. Is that adequate?
You could
or-
then, it would just involve another step or two,
Mhm.
but
We could probably add a button. Right now, it just, if I were to press export to Excel, it pulled all of those into Excel document, but yeah, you probably could add that.
Question. So can you add this map feature to vehicles too? Because the NVA form that we received now after the last update, the vehicles have location in them, like where the vehicles will be
Mhm.
stored, yeah. Again, this is like, this request was from Jean to report to FDA. So it'll be great if we can have this kind of map for vehicles too.
Yeah, right now it's pulling in facilities, but we've actually talked about expanding it to vehicles. I mean, if it's working for facilities, there's no reason we wouldn't be able to do for vehicles.
For vehicles,
Yeah.
okay.
I think that could easily be added in there. Yeah, we did this as kind of like a request. It was almost like a test. We just wanted to see what it would look like to implement Google. And so we just started with facilities because that made sense, and organizations. But yeah,
Yeah.
we absolutely could expand to vehicles. I don't see why it wouldn't.
That would be great.
All right. We're going to kind of just move along then out of our organization tab. Like I said, that was kind of a more in-depth tab. Of course, there's a lot of data to go over. Next, we're going to move on to our grants. This is really going to start to kind of look at the top-down view of now the site at the financial level. So this is going to be similar to those who are familiar with, your current BlackCat. You start with your funding programs, 5310, 5311. You create those in admin, and then from there you create your grants or your awards that then pull from there. So that's the very base, I guess, of your pyramid, and then we're going to work our way up. So next would be our grants or our awards. And so this right here, this table is going to then show all of those grant details. You have the ability, of course, to use our filtering tool, like I've mentioned before at the top. And then down below, we'll see at a quick glance, similar to all of our other listing tables like vehicles and organizations, there's a table that shows you kind of like the important items that you can go in depth when you open up each line. So our table is going to show us on the left-hand side what that grant is, the name, the grant number, fiscal year expiration date. You can then quickly see how much is available, how much has been allocated, how much has been encumbered, how much is left to be encumbered and left to be allocated. And if we open up each individual grant, you then can really kind of drill down into those details. So we have a lot of these items are kind of similar to what you guys have now, but we have additional items as well that you could be collecting specific to your grant. If there's ever anything you need, various states might say, hey, we have specific codes or items that we have for our grants or awards. Can you please add that field or a radio button? That's an easy thing for us to be able to customize and add for you. But what really matters here is that this isn't just a place to store grant details and the grant amount. Everything is connected within the system. So when you create your project and it moves through the application process and it gets allocated, it's tied directly to the grant. And so you'll see these grant dollars start to be, pulled down and drawn down directly into those projects. And you can see that at the grant level, like we're looking right now, we see this grant here. This grant total was $787,000 we see, but then we can drill down to the individual project level. So we can look at our individual allocations, also our distributions, which is where I'm going to go right now. For those who haven't really used our BlackCat site very much, essentially the distribution is a smaller bucket of the grant. So every distribution pools together and rolls up into that grant amount of, in this example, $787,000. So every distribution can be customized however you want. Typically what we see is people will have each distribution bucket will be its own ALI specific to, that type of purchase, but it can be customized however you want to split those up into. But you'll see each row here represents a different distribution that rolls up into that large grant. And if I were to select this drop down here, we can then see the projects that are associated to each distribution. So in this example here, we have one. We have River Cities Public and their operating assistance. We see the ALI that they use, how much was allocated, how much was encumbered, how much is left to be expended. And this is really useful because you can see from the grant level, I'm gonna try to find one here that has a lot of projects associated to it. You can see every project. Here's one with 2 projects into this distribution level. It could be 1, it could be 30. Want to ask a question?
Yeah.
Yeah,
This
please.
is an important one.
Yeah.
So does it also include putting milestones in here?
Yes, we can.
I would caution you on, we can't use this thing as their.
Oh, okay. I was.
Well, the reason being, it's a good tool, just look at it high level, but this isn't really our fiscal.
Okay.
The reason is there's so many things that change, okay? And I want to talk to you a little bit more on that too, is like the reprogramming of dollars, like you may encumber this stuff originally, right? And then you pay out, but then there's extra money from a grant we're reprogramming in, and I set it up again as a different.
So
Yeah.
John, you and I were on the same, so we have ESP, so we talk a language. So what I was thinking is, let's take the place of Deborah's spreadsheets. That's where I was going right
For
away.
milestones,
And
we'd have to
for-
talk about
for it,
yeah,
so.
and like trams guys are official drawdown,
Right.
like on the grants. It's great to look at this for, like, hey, to kind of to look at, but don't think that
Like a
these
planning
come-
tool.
Yeah, but like right down to the dollar, I wouldn't say, hey, this is the gospel right here, You'd want to look other way to run some reports to get some.
Sure.
Yeah. So, but no, I mean, I
But-
think this is really good. I want to talk to you too, maybe future, about how we've been doing it too, when I reset up that program dollars, because we've done it different ways in that, on the distributions in there, so.
Yeah,
Maybe I can improve on that. to
Sure.
get our numbers more accurate. So,
Sure,
all right, so
absolutely.
I'll let you keep going.
yeah, no, those are great questions. And kind of along what you're talking about, we do have a feature, we call it fund management. So this is a great way to move those dollars between grants. I think that's what you might have been kind of touching on a little bit. But, depending on, long story short, yes, if you need to move money around, whether it's at the allocation level, you need to adjust it and take money off, move it to a different project, you could do that immediately within here. But then at the higher level, at the grant level, you also can do that too. So here you can have recovered funds and transferred funds, carryover funds. And so you could essentially be moving between grants or, adding to the grant or transferring, et cetera. And so you can then see that at the high level. This isn't used very often, so we don't have a ton of data to kind of look at right now, but you kind of get the idea. At the grant level and at the allocation level, you can be moving those monies around. And then we can look at the specific list of actual just allocations, which is similar to your distributions, but at the allocation level here. So if I just select the allocations, I can then see every allocation that was then associated to this grant.
Yeah, and that's a problem. Will we be able to see this allocation earlier? Because like when I allocate something and then Sarah goes and approves it, it's sitting out there, but it doesn't. We can't see it, I don't think, until, well, we can do.
It has to be like fully approved.
Yeah, fully approved and encumbered after PIA gets through with the contract. It would be, this sounds like you can look monitor.
Yeah. So you can add an allocation and when we get to the projects, you'll
Yeah.
see, you can add allocations at any point and see them there. And then it's really once they become encumbered,
Yeah.
and it really matters, but yeah.
Because people, it's hard because sometimes, oh, has this been encumbered, or this been allocated yet? And I can't see it readily. I go, well, it's not in the drop down to be allocated, but did I do that? You know, it's like, it'd be nice to have a quick,
Yes.
good deal. Awesome.
So I'm gonna move along to the project level, because there's could be some kind of more in-depth conversations with these as well. So you start the fund source, where you create, 5311s, 5310 funding sources, your local state funds. Then you move down to the grant level, and then within the grants, you create your distributions like we talked about. And then from there, of course, you need to allocate the funds. And so that goes to your projects. So right now I selected projects. On a project listing, you can search. There's quite a in-depth filtering options you can for your projects. Again, at any point, you can hop between any of your organizations to see their specific projects. If you're an admin, you can simply just select this to see all of our projects. But this is nice. I know, especially for your guys' site right now, the project list, there's like 10,000 projects in there. I talked to Chuck about it. He's like, this is insane. I was like, hey, it's your problem, man, not mine. You created this monster. No, I'm joking. But this is a quick way to kind of filter through those, quickly. But
Does this version have ability to archive projects so we don't have to see that? full
Yes.
long list? Okay.
Yes, you can archive them, and then you can simply, essentially hide them. This is also where you can favorite them so they pop up on your dashboard. Right now, we're looking at our project listing table. So it's going to be similar to what you guys have now, but again, it's expanded so you can see some more items before you jump in at the individual level. But what's nice about this is that we've taken projects as what you guys know, and we've taken it one step above. We've elevated it. So right now, each project for you is a single ALI. So if you're purchasing 10 buses, you have 10 projects. Well, now we call what you call projects, we call them budgets, or just simply ALI. And a project is a collection of budgets or a collection of ALIs. So you can create one project here that has a single ALI. So if you want to purchase one bus, you can create a project and attach your ALI to that. Or if you're creating 10 buses, you can have a single project that then has 10 buses on there. This is really useful because if you're looking at larger scale projects, the example I always use is like a construction project, for instance. You might have a project that lasts 3 to 5 years. Well, right now on your site, like we were talking earlier, it's a 1-to-1 match. And so in this example here, your project is a little bit elevated. It's one step above. So you could have your project that lasts 5 years and is attached to 5 different applications as it moves along that process. And maybe 1 year funding is for design and the next year is for actual construction, et cetera. So your projects can be as simple as you want them, or they can be expanded to be a larger collection of items. So we're gonna look at our table right here. This first example here we see is our, looks like a 24 5311 projects. And then the columns here, you'll see the ALIs that are associated. So I can see that there's multiple ALIs in here. It looks like 1, 2, 3, 4. Then you can see the requested amount, how much has been allocated. I can expand this little table here so we can kind of see all there we go, the allocation year, how much has been allocated. You can see the status. And again, your projects can be associated to multiple applications. So it's no longer locked into a 1-to-1 ratio. So let's open up our project to kind of get a more in-depth view. As I open this up on the left-hand side, you'll see, a list of tabs like we saw with our organizations and our vehicles. You can see we can kind of navigate down here. Right now we're looking at our details. So this is going to be kind of just a basic view of the overall project. So the scope of work, justification, any additional comments, a total project cost overall, and then the type of work that's done. You can then associate project managers and program managers on your end to be the people who are reviewing and approving these through the application process. But we're going to jump in here to our next tab, project funding. This is where most of the details really kind of fall into. This is where we're going to see, first of all, our project overview, which this populates on a lot of the tabs as you move along down the left-hand side. It's going to give you an overall view of the project cost, the net cost, of how much is being requested. If you hover over the amount, let's see, I think it's this one here. Where's my requested amount? Here we go. You kind of see quick pop-ups of how much of that is state and local and federal, as well as other points of who created it and who last modified it. And as I scroll down here, we'll then see our budgets. Like I mentioned earlier, imagine budget being an ALI. So here we have a collection in this table, about 5 or 6 here. Populating, we have a project administration, operating, preventative maintenance, intercity bus project, state funding, things like that. This could maybe be, like I mentioned earlier, if this is like a capital purchase, maybe this is all just a list of 5 buses that they're purchasing. Or if it's construction, maybe each one is, different phase in the construction process, whatever it might be. But each individual item then will show what the budget name is. Each gets its own individual unique ID, as well as the requested amount, how much has been allocated, et cetera. You had asked a question, allocation, for instance, is easy to see. What's really nice is an input, you can select your allocated here, and we can see all of the allocations. So each line item, or each line here is going to be one of those budgets or ALIs. So we can open those up by selecting our little drop down here and see all the allocations associated with it. So where it's going through the application process, anytime funds get allocated, you can open up that project and be like, all right, what are the allocations, where they're being pulled from? In this example here, we have our project administration as one of our budgets or one of our ALIs. We see that there's 3 allocations attached to it. One of them is local. We have 5311 as well as a Title III. And there's quick points of access. So if once these projects and budgets are actually associated to contracts, we can then open those up immediately here and go directly to the contract. We can,
Just a moment.
yeah.
Charlie,
Yeah.
contract, is that the same as the EDOCS number, or is there a different EDOCS number for each contract?
No, that's not a EDOCS.
That's not, there would be,
No.
I think it would be good to have somewhere where the EDOCS numbers,
What,
so they could also find the EDOCS number.
yeah, but what are you talking about for that EDOCS number for the contract?
Yeah, to see the import, where we store all the final information. It's kind of, there's some here, but some of that
But you
contract,
mean more cats, right?
yeah, the CAS, same thing.
Yeah, in CATS, we store under both in CATS and EDOCS, we store under the.
Yeah, I don't.
Contract number, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think it goes by contract.
Yeah, the contract.
Yeah.
number.
Okay.
Yeah, if you did, when you're creating a document in eDocs, if you put the contract number in there, then that'll link it into CATS. So it shows up in CATS. So it's sort of an API that's pulling that in.
I think we did that with I think we've already created that linkage now that I think about it, for some of the information automatically to go into CAS.
Yeah, it's all
We're
the closeout
looking at cat.
information.
Yeah, so, okay. Sorry.
Yeah.
CATS, not EDOCS. Only to CATS, not to EDOCS.
Right.
Zoom out here, scroll down.
So
Yeah.
I have a question about the multiple ALIs on a project. But they all have individual UPNs.
And each project has its own unique UPN as well. So similar to what you guys have now. So each bus you could then, or each ALI, as you're searching, you can search individually, but then you can also search at the project level as well.
The project level is tired.
Yeah, it's just a group. Think of it as like a batch of ALIs. Our projects now is a batch of your projects. You can have a one-to-one if
Okay.
you want, or you can have multiple within the project.
Actually, I'm visualizing this for like Sean's discretionary grants for vehicles. So right now for EVs, for example, for Morris EVs, we have different projects, one for vehicle, one for facility, one for EV charger, right? So when this gets rolled out, we can have just one project and we can have everything related to propane or EVs in tied to this project. So it's just a one-stop shop to look at everything. That's how I'm visualizing.
Correct. And a project essentially could be connected to multiple contracts. So if your project has funding for, buses or things, and it's gonna be on a different contract, you can have one contract that pulls 2 budgets or 2 ALIs from a single project, another contract that pulls a different 3 into its own. So yeah, you could separate it out.
Right now, it's kind of tied to the solicitation, right, to the project application. Just thinking of
Well, not to.
and we would never want it to go and combine like operating and throw everything together.
No,
No,
not
no.
operating and capital. This
Yeah,
is
right.
all capital.
That
Like,
capital, yeah.
yeah, all
Yeah.
capital.
Yeah, But like if the facilities would totally be done separate, I don't know, we'd have to want to discuss that if we want that.
Well, it's very,
And a
very
separate
important for
project.
facilities because those are typically the multi-year projects.
Yeah.
They take more than 1
Yeah,
year.
those you might want,
So that.
unless it's a
that's what-
specific, like
Yeah.
discretionary.
A standalone facility is a multi-year
Yeah.
year project which should have its own project, but the facility related to a propane
Something like that.
discretionary grant
Yeah.
can tie to this project. Yeah.
The system, the nature of the system is very granular, so, you can, as long as we have the data in individual, elements, if you will, ALIs in particular, or phases or years, it's just then how we regroup them. So, but the new system has tremendous a lot more.
Yeah, you can regroup
Tremendous amount of clicks.
The system we have now, you can't things
No.
together at all.
Yeah.
No.
It's all.
Yeah, one to one.
But this system will allow a lot more.
So
Grouping and regrouping.
yeah, I zoomed out here because I'm on my laptop screen and Teams kind of changes the dimensions here. So I wanted you to see kind of all of it at once. But what we're looking at right now is the allocations. And a moment ago, we were at the grant level. So we're at the high level looking down. You could look at the distributions and the allocations. And now we're at the opposite end. So you're looking at the project level now back up to the grant. So as you'll see here, we can see our grant number and the grant name. Here's the distribution title, as well as starting amount and amount. So this is great because you can then see that history, especially as we were just talking a moment ago about adjusting allocations. So you might have started at a certain amount, then as the allocations came along, that might have changed, might have increased or decreased. You can then see the split of how it's been allocated. So, your 80-20s, 50-50s, et cetera. And then as we scroll down here, each of these is its own ALI or its own budget associated to this overall project. So if I open them up, I can just at this level quickly see those allocations. And then down here, we see the actual history of the whole project, all the allocations added, subtracted, et cetera. Let's zoom in just a little bit more now that there's a lot of information on that page.
And that's what we'd want to go and click on each one of them projects
Mm-hmm.
and look, at the allocations.
Yeah.
They're not as high level as I would never fit would be.
Yeah.
Within each one, like preventative maintenance or operating or,
The nice thing too is there's a lot more connectivity between everything. So now at the project level, we can select application or contract or invoices, and directly from our project, we can go to those places. Right now, I guess another answer to your question a little earlier, we had to go to the contract tab, search for the organization, find the project, blah, blah, blah. Now, if you're looking at the project, you can immediately go to your contract that's associated to, or contracts, because you can have multiple. You can also see all the invoices that are attached to your projects, as well as applications as well. And I say applications with an S, Bonnie, because I know we were talking about multiple applications earlier. You have the ability, of course, to have your projects be associated to more than one application. Just to kind of, move things along here, we'll look actually at the application process. So the nice thing about this is that the application process is, you're going to see some similarities to what you have now, but this is really where the, I guess the customization really does kind of shine, because right now we have a generic kind of workflow of how an application gets created, approved, and moves through the process, and we hard code everything for you guys. And it kind of depends state by state how they do it. One state might say, hey, all of our 5311 applications have to be approved by XYZ team, and we need to have a scorecard for 5310s, but not 5311s, or whatever it is. It's all kind of hard coded. But now in the system, you guys actually build the steps yourself. And so when you create an application, let's say for your coming year, you could say, hey, this year, let's do a scorecard, and let's have just one person approve it, or let's have these 4 people approve it, or let's have a group approval, et cetera. And I'm going to kind of give you a quick taste of what that looks like. But as you do that, I'm going to open up one right now here. We'll go over here to our steps. You have the ability, as you're creating your application, to say, what do I want the workflow to look like? How many approvers do I want? What do I want the experience to kind of be? So we're going to select yes. I'm going to say, I'm going to add my first step here. Let's say our first step, I think for you guys, it's, what is our first step called? Review. I'm totally drawing a blank here.
It's just lead, it just has lead reviewer.
Lead reviewers. I thought that
Yeah.
there was a name to it first. I was drawing a blank.
Uh-uh.
We'll just say, I'll just call it the first approval step. Oops. And then we can just say, all right, for this application, let's have, these 4 people or 3 people here, they'll be the approvers. That'll be our first step. And so when an application gets submitted, those people will be notified. They can come in, do the lead review, make sure everything looks good. And you know what? Let's add a scorecard in there too. So the next step will then be a group review. So we'll say the next step will be our second step of approvals.
So that first step would be, we could have, those are the project managers.
Yeah.
So project managers have to
Project
review for
managers.
completeness.
Yep.
And so that's, yeah.
Yep. And then we'll say, next let's have a group reviewers. So we'll have, these 3 people here, they'll be our group reviewers, and we'll use a scorecard. Well, the nice thing here is you guys can build your own scorecards in the system. Similarly, before, scorecards were manually created, again, programmed and all the specific rules. But at any point, you guys can say, hey, let's create our own scorecard. And it could be something you use, that's being required by FTA, or it's maybe something you guys just internally you kind of want to use as a team to make sure that you as a team are doing it the right steps. So you can create your own internal scorecard, and you then would select your scorecard and simply say, okay, we'll have Jack, Jess, and Monte be the group reviewers, and we're going to use this planning grant scorecard here. There we go. There's our second step for our application. And so you essentially go through this. You're able to also add ranking. If you want to have your projects be ranked, you can rank them by the project level, where's the grouping of your budgets or your ALIs, or you can say, let's allow our team to rank them at that individual ALI level as well. So then you can also rank them as you're going through that scoring process as well. In addition to that, similar to what you guys have now, you have the ability to create a list of documents that, they fill out forms. I don't know, Scott, how much we want to get into with like the application form piece there.
I think you can talk about what we're doing.
Okay. So one of the big enhancements we have coming for our applications is a form builder within the site. So right now you guys have the ability to upload Excel documents and PDFs and Word documents. But we're actually creating a form builder so that you can say, here's our question, multiple choice, maybe radio button or text fields, and you create the actual questions within BlackCat. And that way you're not having to have a plethora of documents that you're downloading and uploading. You're able to view them directly in the site and compare them.
We resisted that in the past because, we were creating all these forms and people are collecting data that's never really reused or used in reports. And it was just, time consuming spectrum. And that's why we're heavily document laden in the systems. But the ability to add forms will allow you to collect metrics, objectives, and certain things that you do want to kind of use. So,
Yeah, because
so we're
even though
adding
we
that
cut
form.
back on it, our applications still include some reporting components to them. They're more for the reporting end than for the actual application itself. It's
Right.
just-
Would it allow for like automated metrics to be pulled in,
Uh,
depending on who the
yeah,
system
again,
is?
yes, but cautiously, meaning if the problem we always have with the forms and giving the control, a lot of other systems like they'll allow you to create all sorts of fields and, you think they're great because you can create a form the way you want, and then next year you recreate it. And the problem is tracking the data, right? So if you're creating a field and then next year it's in a different spot, it's called something different, but it's still the same thing. And then you want a report run, we don't know how to manage the
Sure.
report.
I guess I meant more like from like the other parts of the site, like your ridership information, budget information. Can
Yeah.
some of that automatically be pulled in?
Sure. Yeah, we just have to work with you on it. It depends on the use of the form and what data you need.
Mhm.
So again, we're cautiously moving forward with it. We've actually implemented it in another system. It's still kind of in the test mode, but most of these form builders, the people that provide them are not concerned about the data. They're concerned about the easiness of creating those forms and collecting the data. Our concern is collecting the data so you can manage it and manipulate it. So we should be able to do that. It's just kind of cautiously understanding how we kind of move forward.
Sure.
So when it becomes available, and it should be if you move to the new system at that time, then we would work with you on the best way to use it, how to manage that. You guys are very heavily data driven. And so it'd be really important to make sure we know if you're going to create those forms, the specific fields that data can be used and used long term. That makes
Yeah, I mean, I think just for us, what would be great is like, the systems are having to just pull this stuff from different parts of BlackCat anyways, so it was all just kind of populated with the basics that we needed. That would save everyone a lot of steps.
Yeah, and we can, with Kayla can help analyze that if you're getting to that point anyway and see the best use of the tools that are in the system, certainly.
So is the document then specific to the application? Is it just stored in that particular application solicitation form? Or where is it? Because we have a lot of duplicate forms we use in multiple solicitations.
So you
Yeah.
want to ask if you maybe can like copy and paste essentially, like create a form builder once and then copy and paste it. Yeah, I think we haven't built it yet, but I think that is the. Well, if we're talking specifically about the application builder, the form builder, that's one, we're still in the process of designing it, but that is the goal, is you can kind of duplicate them. Kind of like what we've already been talking about, duplicating your applications
Yeah.
right now, yeah. Yeah. So the application kind of have your two sides, you build it, and that form builder is going to be a huge asset for people who are actually wanting to be able to keep the data in the site, not have to have a handful of PDFs and Word documents, etc. But then you have the review side, of course. And so again, another good example of how things can be customized, like you saw earlier. You dictate maybe this specific type of application. You want it to be like a quick, simple, one person approves and you're good to go. Or you want to have no approvals. I know sometimes you get in that place where you're just simply moving projects through and you don't have to go through the application process. You just want to approve them immediately. You can always do that. And then, of course, you can have more in-depth review process where you have scorecards and multiple steps. But it's able to be done by you and your team. And of course, your project manager like me would be able to assist you and walk you through that. But the point is that the power is kind of handed to you to be able to create the workflows the way you want them to be. Then, of course, after application has been approved and allocated and whatnot, then you kind of move to the contract phase. So we'll hop into the contracts tab here. From here, it's going to be similar to what you guys have now. You have the ability to look at your contracts and your invoices and your listing table down here. The nice thing about this listing table compared to what you have now is you can see a little bit more information, especially when you click on your drop down here. So I could, if I wanted to, quickly just look and see what project or budget has been associated to this contract, and even more so, what are those allocations? And so you can kind of quickly see them here at this contract listing table level, or we can open up our actual contract and view it at the more in-depth level as well. So when we look at our contract, we can see the basic information such as the functional area, the year. We have the ability to, of course, to create PDFs. So if you provide us a boilerplate template type thing, like, we're kind of utilizing now, so we could create those contract actual PDFs for you, that could be done as well. And then we have our associated budgets here. So at any point, we have on this example, we have one item here, just our preventative maintenance, with two allocations associated to there that we were looking at just a moment ago. But this could be a contract that has maybe 5 or 6 budgets or ALIs associated to them. I know we spoke earlier about your project might have multiple budgets on there, and then you might have 2 that go to one contract and 3 that goes to another contract, maybe depending on the funding and what's happening there. You can do that easily. So it's very customizable in how that works. You can then also see the history of the changes that were made. So if I were to select this drop down here, and if a change was made, we could then see how much allocation was removed or adjusted or added to this specific budget. And then down below, we have kind of more in-depth contract tracking information, such as the close date, the encumbrance date, execution date. We have a lot of other date fields added. We added this planned column, so you have the ability to say, hey, what was the planned execution date versus what the actual execution date was? And for all these items here, you can then be more specific about that. As well as e-signature. Of course, if you want to include e-signature, you then can do that. And that can be managed here within the page. So if a document has been sent, we can then see the history here. If it's been delivered, it's been sent, if it's been signed, we can then download it wherever it's at in the signature process, or just simply view it. You can also then send bumper emails. So if it's somebody's turn to sign and they're forgetting or lost their email, or they need a friendly reminder, you can send a bump email to them to say, hey, it's your turn to sign this invoice or contract or whatever it is. On the left-hand side of our contract, we then can see other items such as documents. So I know you guys use your contract document tab quite a bit with connecting to your payment side there, using that API there. We can also see more of a drawdown level too, to kind of see at the individual ALI level or the budget level, how much started, how much is left over, what the balance remaining is, the voucher numbers, warrant numbers, all that sort of thing. And then we can look at the actual invoice listing, which is going to be similar to kind of what you guys have right now. You can see your batch of invoices. However, we can see a little bit more data here because the window's a little bit bigger. Let me find one that has actual invoices on it. Let's see here.
Can find an operating account.
Yeah. Okay, here's a couple right here. So here's our invoice listing. So we see there's about 4 invoices. Each invoice has its own number. You can see the contract number, the organization, vendor number, and then kind of the data such as how much has been requested, how much has been paid. We're going to open up one of our invoices here to get an individual look. We see here that there's 5 steps of approval for these. We're looking at a test site for South Dakota right now, so that they have 5. You can dictate and let us know, hey, for capital projects, maybe we only need 1 step of approval, or for operating, we need 5 steps of approval, whatever it might be. We can then shape and kind of shift how you want those to navigate through the system. As you look through the invoice, you'll see kind of some basic information such as the dates, when it was applied. Right now, we'll see this bundle maintenance table here. This is where I was mentioning earlier, you can associate maintenance items to your invoices and say, hey, this tire rotation, whatever it is associated here. Then you have the ability, of course, then to dictate how much is being paid from the budget. What's nice about this is there's going to be a lot of similarities to what you guys are using right now, because this is kind of a basic function of an invoice being created. But you're able to then see, federal, state, and local, how much is being requested, how much is being assigned, and how much is being paid out. Similarly to our contracts, you also have the ability to have a PDF be generated. So I know right now we use your RFF.
That's what I was gonna,
Yeah. So we can create RFF documents,
Okay.
still can be generated from the site. And then the actual invoice, final invoices as well. And then, of course, we have our e-signature process that still can be incorporated for your invoicing still.
You might have mentioned this before, but where is that RFF right now?
In
Yes.
your current site?
No, in the new one, because in the current site, we have under the contracts tab, right? Under each contract, we have a tab for RFF, right?
Mhm.
So where is that going to be in future, like in the new one?
So your RFFs are essentially the invoices, right? So I
well, yes and no.
No,
kind
yeah.
of.
Because the
Well-
agency generates the RFF.
Mhm.
So where would that take place?
Yeah,
So that would be in your invoice listing table. You can then select, we call it, invoice. We could retitle it, say RFF, but they create the
Oh,
request
oh,
here.
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, okay.
And depending on the type, so if it's right now, for your operating items, they go through the reporting workflow, and then that creates. Similarly here, you can have the same thing. So you can have it be a direct invoice or RFF, or you can have it come through reporting.
RFF is request for funding,
Yeah.
correct? So that's really, we call it an invoice.
Yeah.
It's
You
the same,
call it-
yeah, it's in-
yeah, so-
RFF, okay.
Just to
Yep.
make sure. Taylor.
Just for the sake of time, I'm gonna hop into our next item here. This is called status reporting. So you guys call this reporting. It's on right now, it's on your organization tab. We've removed it from the organization level. We put it in its own tab, so you can quickly access and see all the reports that you need to approve and review. So you no longer have to go to each organization, drill down there. You can just simply go to this tab here, use a filtering to search, like for instance, you could search for all your monthly reimbursements or vehicle ridership, any sort of your large mass data importing from your agency side is going to be living mostly here. So, and these are built for you and essentially by you and your project manager. So if it's anything like a ridership report or a vehicle report or NTD report, or if it's monthly budgeting, whatever it might be, we create those with you, and we create the workflows, however many, again, approval steps you want, what you want pulled in. All those data points can then be customized essentially to you, but it doesn't necessarily have to be programmed anymore at the programmer level. So it's a lot more agile, I guess is a good word to use. So
Good for you, Ben. You have 14 reports coming in every month.
Exactly.
yeah, and you can, exactly, and you can batch them. Yeah, so if you want to have their ridership and their vehicle together, If you want to have whatever it is, you can do that. It's all listed here, so you can quickly see all of the organizations, as you see on our left-hand side here, at organizations. You can see them, you can see the various types of reporting profiles, and they can be customized to be monthly, quarterly, annually, semi-annually, whatever it might be. You have your frequencies showing here monthly, and of course, then the status. So we're gonna look up just a kind of a generic ridership report right now. When you open up your report, you'll see the components. So in this example here, you have a single component, but then if you want to have 3 or 4, 5 or 6 components, one of our ridership reports here is an example. We're looking at here is a table of all of the vehicles for this organization. So this is for Black Hills Works, this organization here. We'll see all of our vehicles. If I were to expand this, we can then see the data that they're wanting to collect. Now, again, you don't have to collect all this, but if you want, you can. So we have a ridership information, so they can put in the revenue miles, non-revenue, hours, coordinated trips, mileage. You can put in the passenger types and the ride types. All they simply do is they simply just edit and they just add, how many of these are medical, how many of these are nutrition, et cetera. They can save them and then submit it for each individual vehicle.
So we don't do it on individual vehicle, we do it on route.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I'm trying to remember. I thought, for instance, for some reason you guys did have a.
It's labeled in ours as vehicle/route,
Yeah.
because for the urbans, it's the route, because the vehicle on that route may change day to day.
Oh, yeah.
But the rurals, it seems to be a gray area, whether it's a route or a vehicle specifically. Does that make
It's a
sense?
route,
It's a route, yeah. We don't,
Mhm.
we
even on
don't,
the rural side.
True, but implementation side seems to be somewhat fuzzy on whether it's always going to be that one vehicle. Like, I feel like the red route is always vehicle A, or whether it's vehicle A today or vehicle B the next day. This seems like there's, but that might be more semantics or.
So we can, yeah. So you can build them to be vehicle specific, or I have to see if anyone else is doing route specific. I don't see why that would be an issue, though.
I don't think anybody
Honestly,
is, but I don't see why you couldn't. It just
Yeah.
It's just filtering.
just filtering it differently. Yeah.
And I would argue.
The current report in their system was by vehicle.
You're talking about because you guys have a lot of reports you're doing. So you have your ridership one.
Right.
That's what you're talking about then.
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking about your vehicle report.
Oh, this is more as vehicle, I was more. in
You
the-
could do a ridership report that does it at the route level if you'd like
Okay.
as well. Yes.
I do think some of the stuff coming out of the transit plan, there could be value in collecting by vehicle information. So I think that's an open question that we need further discussion around.
Yeah. And who knows, maybe you want to have, both. We're gonna go back here. I'm gonna pull up one example here. We have I was looking at our vehicle ridership report. Is that what I was looking at? Yeah, the new version. Let's see. You can also look at this one here. Might be similar.
And as you're going through this, I'll throw this out early rather than, so I don't miss it at the end.
Okay.
You'll create a written manual on all this too, that is part of the update, correct?
Like a help user guide?
Yep.
Yeah, well, actually, right up here in our help menu, I'm in our test site, so it's not gonna, it shouldn't populate. Well, actually, okay, there it is, So right now I'm logged in, you can see all of that, but the way that we have it broken up is we have PDFs and then we also have some videos as well. So, and it's organized by user. So if you're a state user, you'd see all the state user guides. If you're organization agency user, you'd see those user guides. But then also, you'll see down here tutorials. These are actual videos, so you can then watch individual like screen recordings of us walking through how to do it.
And so this is also an improvement over the current version, which we don't have any of this.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's just a PDF.
Yeah, I mean, you guys have PDFs, yeah. I was gonna say, I was like, I think you better have one, otherwise I'm surprised, yeah. No, there's no videos right now.
Yeah, no.
I think usually any videos are from trainings, you just record them and put them in your global resources.
Could you, I think when you're opening for the ridership report, it's a 5310 program. That's why you're only seeing the minimize. If you could open 5311.
I did look on ours, the service level ridership report, it does have vehicle ID/route number.
Okay, yeah. I don't know if I have a specific 5311 one, but the long story short, the nice thing is you customize it. So you could have it funding specific. So you could say for 5311, we only want to gather these items. For 5310,
Okay.
only gather, that can easily be done. And it would look, similar, but we do that on the back end with you.
All right.
Project manager, but yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's right now, that's kind of the unfortunate thing of our test side. It's like kind of a hit or miss on what we can find in there.
Right. No, I understand.
But, and then, of course, you guys are used to your operating type, reports where they're looking at the line item by line item. So you can dictate similarly in here if you want that to be more of the direct invoicing, or they just simply create a request for an RFF, or you can have them actually look at the line item by line item level. So in the projects and that budget level, you can have it be a single line item, or if it's like an operating, budget, you could have it be a litany of, items such as, staff benefits and staff salaries and all those sort of things. So if we were to do that, you can then create your invoices or your RFFs based off of that. So we're looking right now here in this example, this was a budget that was approved for, as you see here, operating. So we have those line item amounts like the driver wages, fringe, intercity bus, dispatch, and all these items can then be customized and shaped the way you want them to be. And so as a team, we'd be working together. You could say, hey, Caleb, can you add in, software as a new line item? We could throw that in there, or let's add in like, maintenance, et cetera. So we can put those line item by line item amounts in. And for those who are currently working with your operating budgets, this is going to look probably familiar. You have your budgeted amount, your actual amounts that are being spent that month or that quarter, how much has been expended, and the balance remaining, as well as additional comments. So as we scroll down here, they're able to then report however you dictate, if you want it monthly or quarter. I know you guys are doing monthly and quarterly technically, what that looks like and how much or how those dollars are being spent down every report. So as I scroll down here, you can just kind of see all the line items. You can break them up into sections. You have revenue, you have expenditures, and then down at the bottom, you have a pretty in-depth summary. This could be limited, a little bit more simplified, or this can be expanded like this example here, where there's a lot of data being shown and all the dollars being spent down in all the different ways. And so they will create these, whether you want them monthly, quarterly, whatever, submit them. And when they've been approved, then they turn from a report like we're looking right now into an actual invoice, kind of like you guys are working with right now. And that is drawn down. I'm going to just move right along into reports here, because I know we've mentioned reports at the beginning here, kind of what that looks like. This is a newer enhanced version. On the left-hand side, you'll see all of our stock kind of created reports. The nice thing about this is that anytime we get suggestions or requests or people create new reports, if it's something we find valuable, then we can provide it for anyone who's using the site. Or if you want to have something kind of customized, we can build one for you. But the nice thing about this is that you have a preview window here. So as I select my report, you'll then see in the middle here, I have kind of like my preview. So I can kind of see the data quickly before I actually download it. Because I mean, everybody's download folder, I'm sure, is filled with a bunch of Excel documents and PDFs.
Oh, yeah.
So you can quickly kind of glance and see the items that you're running that report for. You can download it in multiple versions like PDF or Excel or even Word. You can print it out. You can zoom in, and zoom out, see the data. And then on the right-hand side is our filters. So right now you guys are running it, the filters, and that's creating a single document for you. But at any point, we can simply just update our filters, select preview, and then it'll just simply provide us that preview data here. So if I wanted to, I can then, select specific organizations and change that, and my preview window shows it. And again, like I mentioned on the left-hand side, we have all of our actual reports broken out here. So some of these are going to look familiar to you, such as the basic contact information, organization ones, and there's going to be some new ones in here as well. But similar to what you guys have now, anytime you need a report built, you just, of course, build one to live here.
I love your terms. It's enhanced and it's customizable. I haven't heard minimal cost increase though. I haven't heard that.
That's because I'm the one talking. That's his conversation.
Now,
I could be like,
All
oh,
sounds
I could
good.
be like, Oprah. You get a black cat. You get a black cat. Everybody gets a black cat.
On the downloads there, just one question.
Yeah.
I saw Excel there. Most of the reports currently download as an XLS file. Since that's, I guess, our 2015 version. In 2020, in the 2025 version, does it download as like the current Excel file?
Yeah, I think that's a worksheet, right? I think that's the newest. That's the current Excel. I believe.
Not sure what it's labeled, but yeah, if so, that'd be awesome.
That should be it.
Okay. Because oftentimes they'll download it and be invalid to open. So you have to just go into the file type and write an X at the end in order for Excel to open.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, we can always tweak that for you.
Okay.
Because those are probably pretty old reports that no one's touched, so.
Sure, okay, awesome.
Ben, is there any other download format that you don't see here that they?
Just the API stuff is what I use now. It's just been, and it sounds like we'll just work together and
Kind of reroute.
rename. Yeah. Awesome.
Come up with new names that actually mean something. I look in those reports and I look at it and I read it and what it says, and then I go into the report and it's not what it says it is. It just drives me nuts that we have.
Well, I'm gonna point at Gary on that one. That's his fault.
Nah, you-
That's Chuck.
Hey,
Chuck's
that was
gonna-
Chuck.
Chuck, yeah, I'm gonna blame Chuck.
We'll name it whatever you
No.
want, man.
I think
I
what we're
hope-
working towards is like this API format for
Mhm.
more of the reporting back end analytics, in-house, right? So we can get more staff seeing that side of it. rather than-
Which would eliminate the fact of down the road, because I mean, the last time, well, Chuck and I previewed this week, I know the big conversation we had was, we have a lot of customized reports. You know, what
Yes,
happens
you do.
moving forward, but moving into API and what you guys are doing,
Plus-
everything
Yeah,
will be customized.
It's time for kind of a rethink if, especially if you go to
Yes.
the news, it's like clean out your ad, right?
Yes.
You know, so, you know, if we move in
Gary's
that
familiar.
direction,
Yeah.
you know, we'll clean all
Moving,
this up.
no.
My wife's after me to clean out our ad.
So that, I mean, really, when you're looking at it, moving forward potentially to this and with the API and everything that Ben's been working on in Austin and Tyler, stuff they're building, you know, we won't really have the need to move a lot of those customized ones over.
Just skip over context too. You don't need to do that.
Okay.
That's so.
Yeah, and you know, what we've really looked at this morning is what we call core, which, you know, as you can imagine, is essentially the core, the basic, you know, function of the site. But of course, there's additional modules in there. We touched on a few of them, like maintenance and things like that, but we have other modules that we, of course, don't have time to jump into, such as forecasting and, you know, obviously oversight is one you guys are familiar with. Procurement is a new one, as well as NTD. NTD is not a new one. It's new to this. We've used NTD quite a bit in the version you guys are using, but NTD is new in our site here. It's the same module. We're going to talk more in depth on that on our meeting after lunch.
Yeah.
But procurement, NTD, DBE, the DBE module is really great because Scott kind of touched on it earlier, you know, with our connection, obviously through B2G, who's the leading, God, there's too many acronyms I'm saying. B2G is the leading DBE provider, you know, whatever. So we have access to their, you know, data. So as users are creating contracts and things and they're selecting DBEs, vendors, they're able to access those points. So they're not having to recreate the data. So they're looking at who are the DBE vendors in Minnesota and pulling all that information in and things like that. So we're able to kind of access that. And of course,
Before you
TAM.
leave that, I just want to take a
Yeah.
moment. So a lot of what is being done now is manually, and it's being done as part of the procurement process. And Jean goes back and basically creates those DBE reports for the systems. And she's manually pulling data to do that. So it's a major effort. She'll say it's not, but it is a major effort to go in and gather that DBE stuff.
Yeah.
On how to do the main, so.
I wanted to leave some time for questions and discussion because I know we just talked about a lot of things.
How has the transition gone for other DOTs?
Yeah. It's a great question. I mean, let's see, who's some good
What does that
examples, like
look like?
Massachusetts?
Yeah, we're in a number of different places with different clients and bringing on new clients. So the new system is a multi-tenant system. So what it does is allows us to put multiple clients within the framework of the same system. They can't see each other, data doesn't commingle or anything like that. But what it does is allows us to be much more agile. We can make a change and everybody benefits from the change, that sort of thing. So we're putting new clients in, removing some of the older clients. You guys are kind of second phase older, if you will, in the beginning. So the original first few took a little more time as we're sifting through the data and how it's different. Because the early implementations were kind of one-offs, a lot of customization, kind of like you guys have a lot of customization. So, but now that we're starting to move into some more of our clients at different phases of their implementation, it's starting to really pick up because we're starting to understand, you know, it's getting easier to perform the tasks that are needed. So the few that we have are just getting accustomed to the new platform, the new processes and that sort of thing. Because we have to take them out of the old system and into the new system. So, but it's been going really well so far. And yeah, we're able to find the uniformities in terms of processing the data, checking the data, and clients checking that sort of thing. So it's going very well.
And the nice
How
thing,
many months does like that kind of process take?
Well, it depends on the client, right?
Yeah.
So you guys have a lot of decisions to make because, you know, 10 years or more of a lot of customized elements, we're gonna have to examine those elements. Either we gotta leave them behind, or if you really need them and we don't have something in the new system, we have to talk about recustomizing it,
Sure.
which is, there's cost and time involved in that. Hopefully we can kind of leave a lot of that behind if we do make the move. Yeah, so a lot of that, it's hard to give a true time frame on that because in your case, I'm not sure how long it would take. On the analysis and the decisions that we make, you know, how much can you use the new system as it is? And I think you can leave a lot of the old stuff behind. The Power BI gives us even more ability because we're kind of adapting a lot of the data flow. You know, it shouldn't take more than, you know, a year on worst case scenario. A lot of them are taking a lot less time than that. And the value, well, one thing to remember is you're going to work in the old system until the new system is completely ready to validate it. So it's really just a cutover when the time is right. So there'll be some time that you all will need to, you know, test mainly and validate the data.
I would say, and my staff and others here might echo it, been in BlackCat. This is a change, but this is an older system. We recognize the platform. We recognize how it works. So it's, as Scott was walking through it, the pieces, we recognize things that on how to do it already. Caleb, sorry. Oh, sorry, Caleb.
I go by Scott, that's fine. I get a pay raise with that name, right?
Nice try this.
Yeah, but I think that also helped us
Yeah.
in that it's a platform that's enhanced, but it's not foreign to us. We're not learning from scratch.
Right, and we control both ends, right? So we know what you have, we know what's there. It's just a matter of adapting the process. So, and again, the fact that you're not going to be without a system at any point in time. You'll be with one and then, you know, the new one. So, and that's one of the things the clients that are moving are having to really appreciate. It's like we're fine. We did a little extra time to test it.
Right.
But now we cut over and all the data's already moved. That's sort of it's a great question.
And I personally, you know, I mean, I'm probably next to Noel right now, seasoned person in BlackCat. But seeing the new platform and with, you know, with the possibilities, okay, if there's something going on, Caleb can fix it versus reaching out to that programmer, you know, makes it quicker, you know, I mean, I get beat up every day right now. We've got reports needing to be rolled back. We've got this needing, I mean, every day Ben and I are talking and it's fine, but to see the process speeded up a little because all it's going to take is maybe Caleb going in and fixing something in it and then, hey, rolling it back and that day, you know, possibly having it done or a couple days.
Yeah, and our whole organization is trying to shift away from developers to project managers
Right.
or yourself in a lot of cases, like the pick list, for silly little things like that.
Yes.
You know, can get lost in the shuffle of our traffic schedule. You can make them while you're in there.
And then, you know, and then there's some things I see on like the vehicle and the inventories to be able to more customize that over the years. We've always talked, I mean, Harini and I talked early when she took over for Kathy. Why can't we get some of these drop down boxes, you know, more accurate to what the vendors that we buy off of, the types of vehicles or this type, this and that? Well, it's because it's a generic version we have and we're gonna get them in there and that's what it is. So there's a lot of things I see that moving into this new platform would definitely benefit this office a lot more. You know, and
Especially when we are constantly improvising on everything that we do because of the changing situation. The transit industry is not like how it was like 5 or 6 years before, right? So we need some kind of.
And it was confusing before. So, yeah, we work in the other modes and, you know, aviation and even waterways, and it's nothing compared to what you all deal with on a daily basis. The number of programs, the number of requirements, all the reporting requirements, the compliance requirements, the reviews, on and on. We get it. I've been with you guys the whole time, so I understand the challenges of transit over the other modes. So, you know, we have all ex-DOTers, project managers for the most part, and the developers have been together a long time, you know, 5 years or more in most cases. So we know the systems. We're trying to adapt things as quick as we can. But this new system is really heavily focused on configurability, which I was just mentioned, rather than customization, you know, this thing. So there's a little benefit there. And the cost is not that bad.
We have Sarah who will worry about the cost and everything. We don't care about that. We don't care.
So we're a little softer on it. It's not like, boom, here's this huge price. You know, we're motivated to get you over too, because it benefits our ability to serve you better as well.
right.
So there is a cost differential. It has to be, but it's not,
It'll
it's
probably be a lot cheaper than doing enhancements.
for everybody.
Yeah,
Yes.
we used to have to pay for the enhancements
Yeah.
separately.
Yeah, in fact, we had an annual meeting with Chuck.
Yeah.
here, and, okay,
Yeah.
here's the money.
Sit
here's
down.
the enhancements.
Typically, this meeting would be that sitting down and
Yeah.
Chuck would have the list of enhancements and we
Yeah.
talk through them and then.
My
Caleb,
hand would
Scott,
hurt after all. of that.
right, would say, all right, well, we'll get back to you with the costs, you know, after they go back and look at the programming and programmers to do the work and everything, and so,
We're trying to make it a win-win.
yeah.
I noticed just since I've been doing this, working with BlackCat, Caleb, like changes I want to see, or can you do this, or can you do that? He's like, oh, but you can in the new version.
Always selling.
No, it makes his life easier.
Yeah.
Can we, folks online, do you have any comments or questions? Don't want to leave you out of the
I know.
conversation.
Back to the vehicle reporting. Was there an option to do the location of the vehicles? And I didn't know if you guys also had, like you had assets, could that include thresholds of $10,000 or less for equipment in the reporting?
Okay, so your first question was location. So you're asking when they do their like monthly or quarterly reporting, if they can update the address of where it's located
Yeah, or annually. I think we do it annually.
annually? I don't see why that couldn't be added. I don't know if we're using that right now, but I don't see why that couldn't be added into a reporting field.
Isn't that kind of related to what Harry
Yeah.
was asking about?
Yeah.
About, can we do the mapping for?
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
I don't see why that'd be a problem. And then you're,
Before we jumped into the mapping though, that could be a lot of dots on the map.
Yeah.
I think we can do it. It's something you might want to think about, but running reports and those sorts of things.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of making sure we have the right fields.
Well, thought I saw in the vehicle one, when you had it up there, there was a location.
yeah,
There is now.
And in the current option, it's there too. We just finally started collecting the data.
Just
With,
2 or 3 months back.
Mhm.
yeah, with the new vehicle inventory
Yeah.
forms that are coming in, we're starting to collect that data to where I can put it in. It's located in, Rochester.
Yeah, you
Stuff like
might have an agency that's got 70 vehicles, 50 or 20 or whatever.
Yeah.
It would look like one big blob on the map.
Yeah.
No, so that's, but can it be done? If we have the data, then we can do whatever is reasonable with the data that's in the system. We just need to talk.
Yeah, we just wanted a moment in time, at least once a year. It doesn't have to be on a map. It's for control of equipment,
Sure.
Yeah.
for like a
Just
finding in our
that's-
comprehensive reviews with FTA
Yeah.
that we've done.
Yeah.
It's just.
I think that's good, Maddie, because we're collecting it now, but in the future, we gotta be a way of updating it. Because we know like Arrowhead, they don't all sit up in Gilbert all the time. They get bounced around.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the other question was about the other assets that are like pieces of equipment that meet the federal definition of equipment and putting those in an inventory in BlackCat.
Yeah, we have a specific equipment inventory category. And so you could absolutely put them in there and then in the reporting process, we kind of dictate, say, what do you want pulled into your monthly or quarterly or annual report? And you could then dictate, yeah, we want our equipment items pulled in there.
We can put thresholds if we don't have them already.
Yeah.
Some states are 5,000, some are 10.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And the other question I had to do with contacts. So I think that's next on that side that you guys are going to do.
Yeah, you could go ahead and ask your question. Do you want me to dive into the tab context?
If Maddie would like to see it, yes.
Yeah, sure.
Well, there's just a question of like, what functionality does the contact list have? Like ours is kind of a large listing, which I don't think we managed that well. Like there's just a lot of some people wear different hats at a transit agency. So they're kind of clicked as multiple, and then we end up having to verify contact information multiple times before a contract might go out.
Mm.
And then also whether or not this list can be used by our communications office on distribution of mass emails.
Yes, so in short, there's gonna be a lot of similarities between BlackCat that you're using now and this version. You have everyone has 2 layers. You're either a contact or you're a contact and a user. And so similar to what you guys have now, if you have an organization that's 10 people, you can have 10 contacts, but maybe only 2 of those people actually have access to the site. So you just take those 2 user contacts and make them into actual users. So you do have your list of contacts, kind of similar to what you guys have now. But what's nice though is you can create what we have groupings down here. So you can have groups, and these could be public, private, or only state accesses essentially to your guys' team. And you can do, mass emails and communications with them. And so you could say these groupings of 10 or 20 or 30 contacts, associate them with this group of contact lists, and then let's email all those 30 people at once or whatever. So you do have the ability to communicate with them in groups in that capacity. But yes, they're similar to what you guys have now. Is if a contact is out of date or is multiple, that it's kind of at the user level to make sure that they're maintaining that list. Similar, I did actually want to touch base actually on the contacts, similar to organizations and the inventory. It is the Google Maps piece is also tied in there. So wherever they're located, they're required to put the valid address. It'll populate as they type it in there. Got a couple more minutes left. Any other final questions?
It sounds like they're just looking at this agenda. Folks are gonna be talking about the NTD piece specifically this afternoon.
Right after
I know
lunch,
there's
we'll come back in.
questions and stuff. Okay.
Yeah.
Hey.
So
Austin will be back, right?
Yes.
Ben, if you-
Gary, oh,
Okay.
sorry.
No, go ahead, Maddie.
You had mentioned, you talked about rolling back reports and stuff. How does that work with payments being processed that have already been processed now? I mean, is that something that's incorporated into this new?
yeah, the ability to roll back invoices
Okay.
is yes. So if an invoice has been paid, you can essentially roll it back and it puts those funds back into the grant that have been pulled out. And the balance is adjusted properly.
And that's,
What
I
if,
guess,
what if we've had a situation come up where a payment's been made like already to the agency and they caught issues and we were like, we can't roll that back now in the current.
Yeah, so that's what I was saying. Yes, if it is
Oh.
paid, you can roll that invoice back. So in the system, yeah, you can say roll back and it'll like essentially undo that payment process.
Even if the money's been paid to the agency.
Well, if you physically cut a check to them, I mean, yeah, you're gonna have to figure that one out in your books. Yeah.
Remember, Charlie, we had that one. a
But
few
with the
months back.
And that whole piece may have to, we've had this where we could maybe just do the reporting. You know, that's the piece.
Correction,
The reporting, but the payment stays the same, and then it would figure it out in the.
right.
Then
Okay,
we figure, yeah, that's what I'm
Is
thinking.
it the Friday one?
I think so. I think
Yeah,
that's what I was
yeah,
talking
we
about.
had that issue where we paid them and then.
Yeah,
They
we
might
we
be-
can't do the whole unwind, I think, of the payment, but
Yeah,
we could look at, it would help on, budget reporting, because we had a situation with. I can't remember, it was Brainerd too.
Brainerd was the other one.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So, but for the reporting, and then we wouldn't have to manually do a change to our line item detail. So.
Right.
So, okay, yeah, that'd be great.
Now, I know internally, we have a lot of like checkers to put it. We've
Okay.
installed, right, like ridership reports come in and it checks the data, for certain reasons,
Sure.
Same thing that I think with the budget report that does some things. Are those are customized on our side, but moving,
So like validating to make sure it's not,
Yes.
oh, yeah, no, that's built in as well.
there's
So
validations.
you can't
Okay.
like request
That's
more
not
than what's
checkers, yeah.
available.
Okay.
You can't, yeah. Yeah,
All
you
right.
get- if like a vehicle, if the last month it was 50,000 miles, the next
Mhm.
month you can't do, oh, it's now 30,000. It'll be like, no, you can't do that. It has to be more at or more than 50,000.
Okay.
miles, that type of thing.
All right.
and the same with funds in a specific line.
Yeah, that's
true.
correct. So you can't,
Okay.
like, for instance, ask for more than what's available type validation
Not for the total grant, but for individual.
budget, like the
Budget.
RF level. Yeah, when they're requesting for funds and things. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So invoices can't be created for more than what's available.
Well, yeah, I meant prior to the invoice creation, like at the budget submission process.
Yeah,
With
when
those-
they're doing when they're like reporting at the line item level.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's correct. They cannot request more than what's available.
Okay.
You can do adjustments if you want. You can have the ability between line items. If they're requesting more for software, you can then say, okay, I'm going to pull from salaries or something and put in the software line item, whatever. You can then do that and then they can request and pull that money. But yes, you can't request more than what's available.
Okay, so like that's good and bad because technically they could go over contract, which we want them to report that data. So is there a function that allows them they've exceeded the budget amount? However, the remaining November, December requests are going to be used from not the grant, but local funds. So how would that be documented?
So I actually had this happen with Jefferson. And they reported actuals in the budget, but the contract will only pay out to contract max. So that RFF, no matter if it was written for, 100,000 over, it's only gonna pay the contract max.
Well, yeah, I understand it's not going to pay more than the contract max, but I think I'm hearing Caleb say like that you cannot report overages per line in the budget submission. And then you cannot, but we do require them to report overages past the contract.
Yes. Yes, and
So
this just happened last year. They could do it, so.
Let me double check because I think we can turn that feature off so that you can request more, like she's saying, so that the end total is the total amount, even though you might be paying just a small portion of that to show the full reporting amount. I can double check, but that's a pretty common thing we run into a lot. So I think that's something that we can just essentially turn off so that you can report the grand total, even though you're only reimbursing them a portion of it.
Right.
Yeah, but we also don't want to, if they're reporting $100,000 grant, say, and they're used all the funds out of one, but they still had remaining funds in another, we'd want an error to be thrown for you're pulling money out of one line, but you actually have money in a different line.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know if we have like a pop-up message specific to that right now, but things like that we can easily add.
Okay.
Yeah, that's not difficult.
I think that's kind of referring to how we have the adjustment they can make.
Mhm.
Right?
Yeah.
So currently in our line item budgets, when they're doing their, they can adjust and move
Yep.
money, right?
Yep.
So obviously in the new platform, same
You can
thing.
still do the exact same thing.
And
yeah.
it tracks them as, what do we end up on, VARs? Or, and,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, I
Okay.
just wanted like to show that there's like, you can't have a negative in this line if you've got extra money in this line. Somehow
That's
like
correct.
create, yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
I don't know, Elliot, do you have anything to ask or add?
I am far from a BlackCat power user, so I'm gonna lean on the rest of you. I didn't have any comments at this time.
Okay, I wasn't sure, but I figured I'd offer, and I know Tyler, you're a young intern here, but you've been doing enough in it. Anything to ask or add based on where we're at with today?
I don't think so. Not at the moment.
All right. Well, thank you, gentlemen, for coming in. Did you want to make any final comments since you made Caleb do all the work?
No, that's
why I
Scott.
brought him. So I'm just here to absorb. No, but we're honored to be working with you guys for more than a decade now, you know, so, and the relationship's always been a strong one, especially when Chuck was here. Almost too strong at times.